Ruth Bader Ginsburg just passed away, about a week or so ago. And it wasn't 30 minutes until after she passed away that Mitch McConnell announced that he will vote in a successor as soon as possible. And this is very different in 2016 when Mitch McConnell refused to hold a vote on Obama's nominee. They did hearings. They had people, they talked to Neil Gorsuch, or I can't remember his name back then. But they had a lot of folks talk to Obama's nominee, but he refused to hold a vote on him. Which, there's nothing in the Constitution that's saying that he can't do that. A lot of these things were just political norms, and he just kind of defied that. He decided, hey, I'm not going to vote on the nominee. And really, it's kind of showed a weakness on his part a little bit, because I think he knew that if he did vote, that maybe this nominee was going to be confirmed, even though Republicans controlled the Senate. And that could be a big problem for him. Now, fast forward 4 years later, and he says he will hold a vote on Trump's nominee, Amy Coney Barrett, even though we are about 45 days out from the election. And Obama's nominee was 9 months out from the election. That was too soon back then, but now, when it's Trump's nominee, I guess that changes things. I guess we can do it now. Now, some think that they are trying to confirm Amy before the election to rule on an upcoming battle over the ACA, over Obamacare. Personally, I think they're going to drag this thing out for as long as possible to keep the court in people's minds over the next few weeks. How this kind of works a little bit is that, the Republicans, they want to get rid of the Affordable Care Act for sure, but they also don't want to do it before the election, right? If they do it before the election, I mean, the common kind of thinking here is that issues like that will bring voters out. Hey, come vote for us so we can get rid of the ACA. If they do that before the election, maybe less people are going to come out. Now, Trump, for his part, I think he wants to do it before the election so he can, have something to show to voters. Hey, look, I got something done for you. Because over the last 4 years, he really hasn't gotten a whole lot done for them at all, much at all, unless you are a very, very wealthy person and you got a nice little tax cut out of it. And there's been a lot of debate over this. There's been a lot of trying to appeal to Republicans, trying to appeal to their sense of fairness, trying to shame them into not doing this. But the fact of the matter is, they just don't care. They just don't care, right? It's kind of a waste of time. I mean, I get it. Like, we're trying to convince them, and honestly, Democrats, they really don't have a whole lot of power to stop this. But in general, they just don't care. And what we have now is a system where the government is being run by the minority, not the majority. Right? Our democracy isn't about who has the most votes. It's about who has the most votes where. Right? And there's a couple different reasons for this. And a couple things to point out. First of all, the vast majority of Americans actually agree with Democrats on a lot of different issues. Right? Republicans represent a smaller amount of Americans than what Democrats do. And a big reason why they're able to maintain the control they have, there's a couple different reasons. One of the first ones I want to talk about is the Electoral College. And that obviously was a big story when Trump got elected. And, people have been talking about getting rid of it for years. And I just recently found out that even Nixon talked about getting rid of it. And you might feel a lot of different ways about the Electoral College. I mean, obviously, that seems like a drastic shift to get rid of something that we've been using for such a long time. But I want you to take a look at this map right here. This is a map of the United States. Very well done. And the important thing about this map is this little red spot right here. That's Los Angeles County, right? That is... there are 10 million people living in LA. Now, that 10 million that is living in that small in that one county in Los Angeles is more than the population than each of these states here. Bigger population than Oklahoma, Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, Michigan, Wisconsin, Washington, Idaho, Nevada, each of these states individually has less people living in it than Los Angeles County, right? But those people in Los Angeles County, their votes just don't matter as much as all those other votes in throughout the country. And so this is kind of played out in the last couple presidential elections, where Democrats have won 6 of the last popular votes, but lost the presidency in both 2000 and 2016. Hillary Clinton famously won by 3 million votes. And so Democrats and Democratic voters are losing their voice. Obviously, this just showed up. They've won the popular vote, but they haven't gotten the presidency because of the Electoral College making their votes essentially less valuable and underrepresenting them. The other form of underrepresentation comes in the Senate. Now, if I go back to this map of the United States, and we're looking at, you can clearly see that the states in blue have a little bit less population, right? Well, the thing is, they all have 2 senators, right? We can go back to our old, political knowledge. We can go back to all our old, knowledge of how the Constitution, how things work. Each state gets 2 senators, and that really kind of screws over states with bigger populations. Like, for example, South Dakota has 884,000 people in it, right? And they have the same representation in the Senate as California with 40 million people. I mean, that is a huge, huge discrepancy there. And what it points out to is that we're in a country where it definitely seems like people, if you live in a smaller state, which is typically a red state, then your vote and your opinion is going to go a lot further in the halls of Congress than it will if you live in a Democratic state. All right. The other way that Republicans are able to maintain power through nefarious means is voter suppression, right? You hear all throughout the country of people losing the right to vote for whatever reason, or Republicans fighting to make sure people can't vote. In Kentucky, in this upcoming 2020 presidential election, 600,000 people are going to have to vote in one polling place, right? They're going to have one place to go vote. How is that not voter suppression? I mean, you wouldn't try to pack 600,000 people, into a football game, right? And now they're all supposed to go to one center to vote. And other places are trying to, you could say, hey, well, what if you just go vote early, right? You can avoid the crowds if you just show up early. Well, in Texas, they're trying to sue to stop early voting. They're like, hey, we don't like this early voting thing. We don't like people showing up at the polls early. Let's try to shut that down, which I honestly, and I've been thinking about this all day, I honestly can't think of any rational reason that someone would want to limit early voting. I mean, that just seems ridiculous. Why would you want people to not be able to go to the polls early? And another little story that has not gotten a lot of attention is the Trump campaign's plan to have armed guards at polling places. Something Donald Trump Jr. looks very enthusiastic about. You can see him calling for people to join the army and secure the 2020 election. Here he is with his rifle there. Nice touch with the Hillary on the magazine clip. She's behind the bars. Very, very classy there. Way to win with Grace Don Jr. What a nice guy there. But yeah, they're trying to get armed guards to patrol polling places. That seems like voter suppression to me. That does not seem like maybe I've missed it. Maybe I've missed the Joe Biden thing about, all right, let's get guns and stand in front of polling places, but that seems kind of shitty. And, the reason why the GOP has been doing this is because they've been really, really good about it. They've been really successful at cheating the American people out of their right to vote and trying to, also gerrymander districts. So if you do go out and vote, your vote doesn't mean as much. And they've been very successful about this. And the reason why they've been doing all these tricks is not because they think that the Republican Party is the future of America. I mean, it's quite the opposite. They're doing these trips because they know that they're in the minority. And Mitch McConnell has made this very, very clear. He knows that the old school Republican Party is dying out. And he knows this for a couple reasons. You don't have to be a genius to figure this out, right? First of all, when you think about your classic Republican voter, what do you picture? Right? Maybe an older person, probably a white person. And that's not where the country's heading, right? I mean, we're a much more diverse culture, right? When you look at young Americans, they tend to vote Democratic. You look at education. Back in the day, in the Ronald Reagan era, the Republicans were very good at winning the educated white vote. Not the case anymore. Not the case anymore. And this has shown up on polling when it comes to, controversial cultural issues, such as abortion. Right now, 77% of people agree with Roe versus Wade. They don't want to see it overturned. Gun rights. I mean, a majority of Americans support expanding some sort of restrictions to ordering a firearm, whether it's just expanded background checks, restrictions on how much ammunition can buy. There's various numbers per thing, but overall, the country supports more gun legislation. Doesn't happen in Congress because Republicans are running Congress. But again, and gay marriage. People by and large support gay marriage now, even if it does not support maintain a level of support in the Republican Party. And so knowing this, Mitch McConnell has spent this entire time focusing on appointing judges to the federal bench with lifetime appointments to make sure conservatism survives. He even blocked Obama's appointments during his term when the courts, because he knew that if he blocks these judges, then he'll be able to pack all the courts, not just the Supreme Court, but pack the courts when a Republican president took over. In fact, he had a nice little laugh about it.
I was shocked that former President Obama left so many vacancies and didn't try to fill those positions.
I'll tell you why. I was in charge of what we did the last 2 years of the Obama administration.
I will give you full credit for that.
Yep, gives him full credit for that. And so now Trump's legacy, really, it's going to be a lot of the chaos, the political divide that now exists in our country. But by and large, his legacy is in the court system. And that's the Supreme Court system and the federal branch. The Senate and President Trump have confirmed more federal judges during his presidency than any other president in the history of the United States. And with Amy, if she is confirmed to the bench, which likely is going to happen, if it doesn't happen before the election, it'll happen afterwards in the lame duck session. Unfortunately, there's not a lot Democrats can do to really stop it. And, for a second there, I thought they might possibly shut down the government over it, but that didn't happen. And so likely we're going to be seeing a 6-3 split on the Supreme Court for the foreseeable future. And that could last for a long, long time. Here is a look, and I'll blow this up full screen for you. Here's a look at the ages of the justices on the Supreme Court. And of course, with Ruth Bader Ginsburg dying just around 10 days ago. And she was the oldest justice on the court. Trump's nominee there, Brett Kavanaugh, he was 55, or is 55, excuse me. Neil Gorsuch is 53. And if Amy Coney Barrett is confirmed, she would actually be the youngest justice by being only 48 years old. So if they do appoint Amy to the Supreme Court, they'll have 5 Supreme Court justices. Republicans will have appointed 5 Supreme Court justices, again, despite losing the popular vote in the last 6 of the last 7 elections. And with the ages of, and it's very, you don't ever want to try to figure out how long people are gonna last for it. That's very taboo. But looking at the ages of the folks on the Supreme Court, it's very likely that the Supreme Court will be conservative for a very, very long time. I mean, we're talking, at least maybe the next 10 years or so. We might see one new justice in that time. likely looking at some of the ages of these justices, we might not have a new confirmation of the Supreme Court possibly for the next, maybe even 12, 16 years or something like that. And that means that with the country trending to be more democratic, that the highest court in the land will be at a lockstep with the rest of the country. And this has problems that are far and wide, right? The Republicans, they've been very good about playing this political game to be able to take control of the country. But if people stop feeling like the government represents them, that's a problem. I mean, that's if people stop feeling like their vote matters, right? If people stop feeling like, that their country reflects who they are, then that's an issue. And that's going to cause a lot of problems in the future. And as we've seen throughout the country, there's a lot of, partisan politics it just seems like the last 4 years have been really chaotic. And that's honestly what I think Trump's biggest problem is. I mean, the coronavirus is huge, but I think a lot of people, they remember a time when politics didn't seem so like such constant chaos. And, with this confirmation to the Supreme Court, likely confirmation to the Supreme Court, it looks like we're probably going to be having that chaos for a very, very long time.
Hey, what's going on, everyone? Thank you so much for watching Citizen Pete. I really appreciate it. If you haven't already, click that little subscribe button, maybe the like button, and hey, maybe just leave a comment. I want to know what you're thinking. What do you think about all the politics, the news, and all the stuff that's going on in our country?